don't be shy. I know everyone has a hidden talent. Even Ellie can rap. So, yeah. Now we have an announcement from the Cancer Team with Hermon.
Good morning, NMH. I am here today to introduce you to an amazing person, my dad. He has been my main role model since I can remember. He has a way of making friends with just a single sentence, maybe because he's always smiling, always optimistic, and constantly cracking jokes. He's also extremely active and has more energy than any other middle-aged man I've ever met. But he's not just my role model, he's also my best friend. This summer, on a beautiful August day, I came close to losing my dad.
The landslide occurred on a Sunday, a dull headache. I had most of the day grew into an epic migraine. I spent the night with my hand over my eyes, and then I started to vomit. Things were going downhill quickly. We figured I was merely dehydrated, so I sent Hannah to her mom's to get some sleep. My partner Barb and I drove to the emergency room. What happened next felt like being pulled into a vortex of the most powerful type. Once I arrived at the emergency room, I was given a CT scan, and within 20 minutes, the doctor delivered the news. I had a golf ball-sized tumor, and it was serious. The feeling of shock and bewilderment knocked us over. Was the doctor kidding? Surely he was kidding.
My mom told me the next morning. I laughed at first, thinking she was joking, but it didn't take long for reality to set in. On the car ride to the hospital, my sadness became fear. I was scared to see him. It would ensure I was not stuck in some crazy, awful nightmare. He was heavily medicated because the tumor was putting pressure on his brain, causing him immense agony. He faded in and out of consciousness. When he was awake, he would vomit, cry, and ramble drunkenly. When he was asleep, he would curl into a crumpled ball, and I watched him, observing how pale and weak he had become. It was easily the most heartbreaking scene I have ever witnessed.
I remember little before the surgery, but I can recall the fear and worry washing over my family. All I could do was think of my two daughters. I didn't want to die. The pressure on my brain was expanding, and I was told later that I had just a few days left to live before the tumor, with no room to expand, would have herniated into my brainstem, killing me instantly. The tears welling up in Hannah's eyes as she looked on with confusion and fear were the most devastating. What was happening to my dad, she seemed to be saying, without even speaking.
In the 10 hours I spent at the hospital that day, I watched my dad decline from bad to worse. He needed more medication every hour, woke up less, and became paler, more delirious, and more uncomfortable. The only part of his body that had any color was his neck, where the bleeding from his brain was pooling. I understood then that if the tumor was not removed as soon as possible, my dad would not be alive much longer. The surgery was moved to early the next morning. Saying goodbye was the hardest. I begged to sleep at the hospital, but neither the doctors nor my family would allow it. I was positive that if I left him, it would be the last goodnight kiss I would ever share with my dad.
Well, I did make it through the night, and the next morning my skull was opened up, the tumor removed, titanium screws and plates inserted, and sewn back up.
After the surgery, I was rushed to the recovery room to see him. This was easily the happiest moment of my life, being reunited with my dad. He was already making jokes and befriending the doctors, but this happiness was short-lived. A few hours later, the doctor returned with the diagnosis of the tumor.
Stage 3 brain cancer called anaplastic ependymoma, a cancer that occurs more than 95% in children and very few adults. There's little data for the doctors to work with. What the doctors do know is the cancer is incurable and is a lifelong diagnosis. They said that despite all efforts to radiate, the tumor will grow back. There is no other treatment at this time. We don't know when the tumor will come back. It could be in a year, 5, 10, or more. However difficult to accept, the truth is I will most likely not live till I'm 100, but I'll take it.
The doctors hadn't even finished explaining before I was gone. I ran from his room and cried on my mom's shoulder for a very long time. He'll never see me graduate, never see me get a job, never walk me down the aisle, never meet his grandchildren. She didn't deny it like I wanted her to, but instead gave me advice everyone should live by. You can't live your life worrying about the future. It took me a long time to accept this, but it became easier when my dad returned home a few days later. He recovered from the surgery quickly, and soon his illness was almost forgotten.
Until several weeks later, I had a second surgery to remove residual cancerous tissue. I am less than a week away from completing a total of 33 radiation treatments to kill the remaining cancer that they can find. I will have for the rest of my life to monitor things with tests and MRIs, but it is the emotional mountains which appear to be the steepest. Cancer is a sinister disease and will now always be lurking unless we find more cures.
I was already back at NMH when my dad had the second surgery, and I felt enormous guilt for not being at home to support him. But I quickly realized that I was not alone. People would approach me every day, telling me about their similar experiences. My story is one in over 11.7 million. The story I just told happens to countless families around the globe every day. In fact, we are blessed to have one of the luckier stories. My dad is here, healthy, and alive. Many are not so fortunate. In the time I've been talking, 4 people have died of cancer. And I can absolutely guarantee that every single person in this room will be affected by cancer at some point in their life. And maybe some of you already have been. This was my inspiration to start the Cancer Team, to support kids on campus who have been affected by cancer, and to also help cancer patients in every way we can. I would now like to invite everyone on the Cancer Team to please stand up. Please congratulate them for their hard work. We have raised almost $5,000 since the team was founded and participated in a cancer walk last month. These are the faces of people who are actively working to fight cancer. You too can join the battle to save millions of people like my dad. If you are interested in joining the Cancer Team, please list me. If you would like to fight cancer without committing, please consider buying a t-shirt or donating your hair later this month. Keep an eye on Swiss for more opportunities.
Millions of patients like me and my family are relying on the hope that the cure for cancer will soon be discovered. There is enormous power in numbers, and if we all do our parts in fighting cancer, the cure will be found. I want to leave you with William Shakespeare's quote, "Now bid me run, and I will strive with things impossible."
Thank you.